When Tadej Pogacar wins the Tour this year, this is the bottom bracket he'll be using. Right now, the most successful cycling team in the world is UAE Team Emirates, and their bottom bracket of choice is Biccone, a brand that most of us have never heard of. Well, in this video, we're going to take a close look at 3 of their bottom brackets in their range and fit one of them to that bike just there. One of the hardest working components on your bike is this, the bottom bracket. It averages roughly 4,000 revolutions an hour and gets put under masses of pressure, both radially and laterally. The slightest reduction in performance will be amplified over the 20-odd thousand revolutions it does on any typical tour stage, and that could make the difference between first and second place. So it's hardly surprising that the little bottom bracket gets put under the metaphorical microscope by professional cycling teams. So where does Tadej Pogacar go shopping when he's in the market for a new bottom bracket? He goes to Biccone. And who are they and where did they spring up from? Well, they're a small organisation that specialise in bottom brackets and torque sensors. They're based in Spain, sort of halfway between Madrid and Barcelona, and they were founded in 2018. Now, by their own admission, they are a premium product, and the cheapest bottom bracket they do happens to be this one, which is €75, roughly £65, and the high-end ones go into the hundreds. But if you do a bit of digging, you will actually find that they're part of a larger organisation called the FIRSA Group that has got a presence in 19 countries, employs over 800 staff, and have been making bearings for over 50 years. So we could probably say that when it comes down to the subject of making bearings, they know their onions. So we've got 3 examples of their bottom brackets, starting from a very basic one right up to the premium stuff. All 3 of these bottom brackets are threaded. I don't really do the whole press fit thing. I try to avoid it. I don't know, maybe I'll do a video on that one day. So the first one we're going to look at is an example of their standard bottom bracket. Now, the standard ones use the same or very similar technology to the premium ones, but the use of stainless steel bearings brings the price down to a more affordable €75, which is roughly £65. All of the bottom bracket standards are covered. You've got your Shimano, your SRAM Dub, your BB30. They're all available. This particular one is a T47 internal with a 24mm Shimano fitting. And what does it weigh? 124 grams. Then moving up the range, we have this one, which is an example of one of their ceramic bottom brackets. Like the previous model, this one is also engineered using 7075 aluminium, which has gone through the T6 treatment. But unlike the previous one, model, this model is fitted with ceramic bearings, which means it carries a price tag of €225, which is roughly £190. But like the previous model, this too is offered in all of the main bottom bracket standards. And what does this one weigh? 92 grams. And then we have this one, Tadej Pogacar's bottom bracket. Obviously, it's not his actual bottom bracket. I'm sure that's on his bike at home in the shed. So the new Colnago frame that UAE Team Emirates is using, the new one for this year, has a BSA bottom bracket on it. The previous model was T47. Is that progression? I've got mixed thoughts on that I won't bore you with. But obviously the main difference between this one and the standard ceramic BSA is that colouring. It's got this blue anodizing on it, which, by the way, will cost you an extra €20. And it does look very nice indeed, complete with UAE Team Emirates logoing on it. But other than the finish, I can't actually see any technical difference between this one and the standard BSA one, which is finished like this. If you look at the spec, they're actually sharing the same bearing. So I suspect that technically there's no advantage to this one. It just looks nice. And what does it weigh? 96 grams, so a few grams heavier than this one. I don't know, maybe they put more grease in this one. So now let's have a look at the technology used by Biccone and what makes their bottom brackets different to the run-of-the-mill stuff we're used to. No matter which bottom bracket you go from Biccone, whether it be the steel one like this or the fancy pants ceramic one like that, they all share very similar technology. The two halves of the bottom bracket go into one another like this in what Biccone call dual cup technology. And the theory there is that they go into each other so tightly that it will automatically align those two bearings perfectly parallel to each other. Now, there is no doubt this has been very well engineered. It's a bloody tight fit. Now, I think there may be a possibility with a badly made, badly misaligned press fit bottom bracket that this dual cup technology may offer some benefit, but with a threaded bottom bracket that I'm going to torque down to 35 Newton meters using this bad boy, I'm not so sure that Biccone's dual cup technology is going to win that argument with that much torque. I'm not saying it won't work, I just think I could do with a bit more convincing. The cups themselves are made from a high quality 7075 aluminium, which then goes through a T6 treatment which increases hardness and strength. And for a bottom bracket like this one, a T47, where it has a very shallow tooling interface, that is a very good thing, because too often you see the tool slip on that shallow T47 and it damages that interface. So that is a very good thing. One of the things that really does impress me with the Biccone bottom bracket is their use of seals. First of all, if you look here where the crank's axle will pass through, they've put little O-rings on this edge here to prevent water ingress on both sides. And additionally, if you pull the bottom bracket apart, you'll notice they've put another one here to prevent any moisture getting in. But as well as that, if you then remove one of these very well made end caps and look inside, what they have done is they've put another rubber seal on top of the bearing. If I just get my trusty pick underneath it and give it a lift, that is an additional rubber seal that is sat on top of the bearing. The bearing's got its original seal there, as you can see, but this is just another seal sat on top of that one just to help to prevent water ingress. So it's a real belt and braces. So for that, that's very impressive indeed. But the most important thing that we need to discuss when looking at bearings, well, it's the actual bearings themselves, isn't it? Now, as Biccone is part of a larger brand, it's hardly surprising that they make the bearings themselves. Let's face it, if you owned a large bearing company that had been doing this for 50 years, you wouldn't farm the job out to another bearing company, would you? You'd make them yourselves. But the problem there is, as far as the cycling side of things is concerned, we know very little about them. But I suppose we can take some comfort in the fact that they're being made by a company that has been doing this on a large scale for over 50 years. So you can take it as read that they probably are very good bearings, and also the most successful cycling team in the world right now has chosen to use them for the second year. Okay, so what about pricing? Well, it's a pretty simple two-price rule that they follow. Standard stainless steel like these, right, pretty much across the range, they're roughly €75, which is roughly £65. And if you want to go for the ceramic versions, they are roughly €225, which is roughly £190. There are a couple of exceptions to that. For example, the blue one here, the limited edition one, that will cost you an extra €20, but the vast majority of them follow that basic rule of stainless steel for €75 and ceramic for €225. One of the downsides to things like this, our old friend the Shimano bottom bracket, is it's a non-serviceable item. You have to replace it. It even says on here, do not disassemble. It's good advice. I have done. Trust me, you're wasting your time. I won't bore you with it. The Biccone bottom brackets, you can buy all of the components for them completely separately. So say for example this T47, you can buy a service kit for this which consists of the bearings, the end caps and all of the rubber seals, and that service kit is going to come in roughly half the price of the bottom bracket. Or alternatively, say for example you've split one of the rubber seals or you've damaged one of the end caps, all of those components can be bought completely individually. Now if, for example, you're running a carbon press fit frame, for example, there are a lot of them out there, then that's a really good idea, because with frames like that, you don't want to be pulling and pushing bearing cups in and out of those carbon frames too often if you can help it. So being able to just extract those bearings and push new ones back in without putting any strain on the frame is a great thing. Now obviously the naysayers out there will say, yeah, but you've then got to have the tools to do that, and you're completely right. You're going to need something fancy like that to get those bearings back in. But then again, saying that, you could take them to your local friendly bike mechanic and he's going to charge you what, an hour's labour to do that? So what's that, 50 quid? Right, so let's install this Biccone bottom bracket onto this bike. Now, with your new bottom bracket will come a QR code like that you scan, and it will take you to their website, and you can download a detailed PDF that tells you exactly how to do the job. The website will also state that it installs like any other bottom bracket, agreed it does, and that you don't need any specialist tools. Careful with your wording there, Biccone. What they're trying to say is you don't have to buy a tool that is unique to their product. So for example, if you were to go out and buy a Praxis bottom bracket, a T47, you would then get it home and realise that you couldn't do it up because the Praxis T47 bottom bracket needs a tool that is unique to them. So that bottom bracket that you thought was going to cost you £40, it actually cost you £60, and you've now got a tool that you can't use for anything else, because if you were to get another T47 bottom bracket, you would see that that tool doesn't fit. So what Biccone is trying to say there is they haven't done that. You can get the bottom bracket we're going to put on here, there it is. You can use a cheap and cheerful one like that, use one or two times, they're like a tenner. You've got a nice one there from Park, that's about £30. Or you can get the one directly from Biccone that comes with it, and that is also a lovely fit, and they're about £35. Additionally, as well as that, because this is a threaded bottom bracket, you are also going to need a torque wrench that will go up to about 30 or 35 Newton meters. So agreed, you don't need any unique tools, but you do need some specialist tools. So once again, might be worth throwing your local bike mechanic an hour's labour to do this job for you. Right, let's crack on and get it fitted to the bike. If you look at these two bottom brackets, they look exactly the same as each other, don't they? Other than the colour, that is, they look identical, but they are different. That is BSA, stands for Birmingham Small Arms. Maybe I'll do a video one day as to why it's called that. And that is Italian. The Italian one screws in the traditional right-hand thread on both sides, whereas the BSA has a reverse thread on the drive side. The logic there is if the bearing was to fail, the rotations of the crank would do the bearing up tighter rather than unscrewing it. The other key difference is that the Italian is 36mm thread and the BSA is 34.7mm thread. Now on this whole reverse thread thing, I personally have never known an Italian bottom bracket to unscrew itself. Have you? Stick a comment below if you ever have. I've never heard of it. This bike is a Pinarello, so it's Italian, so we will be using the Italian bottom bracket. Now, Pinarello is one of the last brands to still be using this Italian thread. They're still using it now. I'm hearing rumours that they're considering going to T47 internal. Would be interesting to see if that ever happens. Anyway, let's crack on and get this bottom bracket into this bike. So the old bottom bracket is out, and considering it's 8,500 miles old, it still feels pretty fresh. So all I've got to do now is just get some degreaser and clean the old grease out the thread, and then we can look at installing the new one. Got to be approached with a bit of caution though, because this bike is running Shimano Di2, and the Di2 cables do run through the bottom bracket shell, so I've got to be a bit careful there. I don't want to start guillotining Di2 cables and making even more work for myself. Right, let's crack on. So I've hit a bit of a glitch. The plastic inner sleeve of the Shimano bottom bracket is narrow enough to allow both it and the Di2 cables to occupy the same space. However, the dual cup technology of the Biccone is so much wider that it occupies pretty much the whole space of the bottom bracket sleeve. So if I was to put this in and do it up, because it's occupying pretty much the whole space, it would guillotine the Di2 cables. So I've only got one option. If I want to fit this bottom bracket, I first of all need to reroute all of the 3 Di2 cables around the outside of the bottom bracket shell. And that job is for another day.
One eternity later.
It's a few days later, I picked this job back up and the Di2 cables have been rerouted. Through nobody's fault, this went from a simple 1-hour job to a really awkward 3-hour job. And that is why it's always worth tackling these jobs yourself. There was no skill involved in what I've done here. It was just time and the right tools, which in this case was this, the internal routing kit, which costs just £15. If you have an internally routed frame, you need this tool. Every tool I use in this video will be linked down in the description below. Right, now let's do what we set out to do in the first place and install that bottom bracket. Now, if this was a standard BSA installation like that, we would just use plain old traditional grease on both threads. But as this is an Italian bottom bracket, Biccone is recommending that we use thread locker. Now, in the cycling world, we mainly use 2 types of thread locker. 243 blue, which is a medium strength, and then you've got the 222 or purple, which is the low strength, and Biccone recommends we use purple. Biccone also recommend that we drive the 2 cups in simultaneously so the dual cup technology can do its alignment thing. It's going in really smooth. Sign of a well-made bottom bracket. Torque value 35 nms. Where is that? I think I'm of an age where I need new glasses. A little insider's secret for you. Pro bike mechanics don't use the chain cleaner of their sponsors. Like me, they pay for this stuff. Morgan Blue. Link in the description below. Technically speaking, the bottom bracket spin test means diddly squat because it's not actually under load. But like a free hub sound check, I know people care about these things, so there you go. So, conclusions. The Biccone bottom bracket seems to be very well made, and compared to other premium brands in its lane, it also seems to be competitively priced. I also like the way, personally, that you can buy the bearings directly from Biccone and replace them. Other premium brands don't actually offer that. As these spacer caps are the main interface between the bottom bracket and the chain set, maybe they could have made those out of a Derlin style hard thermoplastic like most other brands do, rather than making them out of an alloy. But then again, theoretically, there should be no movement between those 2 points, so theoretically it shouldn't matter. And that is also, arguably, a nicer finish. I'll be keeping the Biccone bottom bracket on this bike and running it through the summer. I'll keep you posted as to how I get on with it in the comment section down below. And if you've got any thoughts, please do the same. Now, on the subject of bearings, if you want to know how to replace the bearings in your wheel set, check out that video up there. Or alternatively, if you want to learn about how to replace them in your headset, check out that video down there. Thanks for watching.